Welcome to the Narrate podcast, where we aim to tell God's story with our lives. We'll be continuing to post the Sunday message each week, but we want to dive a little deeper and offer some content to supplement your life with God, and that's where our Beyond Sunday series comes in. Join Adam and Narrate staff as they provide thoughtful discussions, ideas, and interviews that go beyond the message you'll hear on Sunday.
Hey, good afternoon or morning or evening, whenever it is you're listening to this. Thanks for staying connected to this Beyond Sunday podcast. It's proving to be this fun experiment where we're realizing that we get to put more stuff out there than Sunday allows for. We wanted to take this week to just name the fact that starting on December 1st, we start the new church year. It's technically known as Advent. Advent begins the new church year. And if you've never before considered the value of the church calendar, the thing that's persuading me in that direction right now is just this simple observation that my friend Michael, he's a pastor in Waco, Texas, he observed in a phone call where he just said we all live by calendars. Whether it's our favorite sports team's calendar, or our kids' travel soccer calendar, or our school calendar, whether it's the hunting calendar, or where's the snow calendar, we all live by them. And that's not even judging them. It's just recognizing that the value of the church calendar is it's yet another tool that we can use to be formed into God's image, to become the kinds of people He calls us to be. And part of what the Advent calendar really seeks to do is just invite us to embody the story, and to do so in a way that's really unrushed and unhurried, because if you step into the church calendar, you step into it knowing that this isn't going to be the only time. So you don't have to drink in through the fire hose. You just kind of sit in the rhythm of it this year, knowing that you'll do it again next year and the next year, and just trusting that if you're engaged and if your intentions are for Christ, that it can become another tool that God uses to form and shape you. So what's Advent all about? Well, the irony is Advent, when it is known, is generally known as just a synonym for Christmas. And that's actually the furthest thing from accurate. Like in our culture, we start celebrating Christmas somewhere around November 1st. And even for the more conservative celebrators of Christmas, we start somewhere around the week after Thanksgiving. And what follows is this flow of Christmas parties and special things and special events and concerts. And we're not going to unwind any of that. That just is. But the reality is that the way the church calendar is designed is we spend Advent, which are comprised of the 4 Sundays and the attached weeks before Christmas. We spend Advent living into the suck, like just naming that the world's not as it should be. And because of that, there's things that hurt and things that sting, and there's death and there's loss and there's grief. In fact, to me, one of the great ironies of Advent is there's been this whole movement to create something called Blue Christmas. And it's a great idea. Maybe you've heard of it. It's this idea put together by mostly evangelical Christians, in which they're just recognizing that for a lot of people, the quote-unquote Christmas season is insulting because they're entering it, maybe you're entering it, with this grief, with this pit in your stomach, whether that's because you have an illness or someone in your family is sick, or you lost someone to death this year, or your marriage is tattered, or a business failed. Like Blue Christmas tries to empathize with those people and rescue them from all the jolly that's going on, and give them a space to just name the crud. It's a great idea. And it's also a great example, in my, I hope, humble opinion, of what happens when we detach Christianity from history. Because Advent, seen through the historical lens, it actually is Blue Christmas. It's designed to create space for us to name all the stuff that's not as it should be, to grieve it, and to recognize ultimately that the solution to that isn't another partner or another marriage or another job or a knee surgery. The solution is the second coming of Jesus. See, Advent's actually not about Jesus' first coming. It's about His second coming, and the anticipation and the grief and the sorrow. That's why Advent, it's a fasting season. We'll come back to that. And the feasting season, the celebration, it starts in our context on December 24th. That's when we celebrate the birth. That's when we celebrate the birth of the church. That's when we celebrate that God sent his Son to rescue us. That's when we celebrate all the hope that comes from what Jesus accomplished by way of his life, death, and resurrection, which obviously was kicked in gear by its birth. So Advent, then, it comes first. It forms our psyche around our story as one that says the real hope is for Jesus to return. So how might you want to observe that? Well, there's a bunch of ideas, and you'll bump into these in other places around Narrate. But one option is to read Tish Harrison Warren's book called Advent. It's a great introduction, real simple, but also there's some accessible depth to it. We'll have those at the scattering table. Second, fasting is a great tool for Advent. Fasting ultimately allows you to embody what you're feeling. And if you're not feeling the grief, what fasting is designed to do is to remind you that you don't live on bread alone, but on God. And I dare you, I'll bet you'd be surprised to experience the different form of joy that comes from fasting. So you might choose to fast from certain foods at certain times of day. You might also choose to practice some kind of abstaining, which would mean you separate yourself from other things. I think we should keep fasting connected to food, and then abstaining would be things like you're going to stare at your phone less, or you're going to turn off Netflix for the month, or just things that are designed to create more space to be with, to listen to read, to be with God. So there's that option. And then fourth, perhaps you commit to a new habit of prayer or scripture reading. Where might you be able to just alter a habit for a little bit? Now, here's a communal option. Over the course of the 3 Wednesdays, that's December 4th, 11th, and 18th, Daryl and Jerry Stordahl are going to host whoever wants to join them in 326 to pray the daily office in 326. If you've never prayed it before, that makes 2 of us. Actually, I've done it a few times, but I've never done it communally. And if the whole thing weirds you out, then that's okay. But the daily office is something Daryl and Jerry have been praying for over a year. And if you feel like you stink at prayer, the daily office is your go-to. Because what it's doing is it's giving you the words to pray. It's giving you the scriptures to read. And it's not designed to be some kind of magic incantation, nor is it designed to replace extemporaneous prayer, but it's designed to like create more space for prayer. It kind of primes the pump. So if you're interested, we're going to meet in 326 over each of those 3 Wednesdays. The plan is we'll start at 12:10 and we'll wrap up by no later than 12:50. It'll probably be more like 12:40 or 12:45. Thus, the desire is you can walk out of the office at noon and you'll be back in your chair at 1. I'd love for you to try it. Nothing fancy. It's just an experiment, but that's available to you. You might also book a lunch with myself or someone else from staff. We're not experts on this, but we've spent some time with it, and it's possible more time than you. And then also, there's this tool that our friend Jess Fisher found. It's this woman who's put together some really awesome devotionals. Her name is Kate Bowler. And if you go to Kate Bowler, that's KateBowler.com/Advent. And if you can't find it, email me. I'll get it to you. She has some free Advent devotionals that you can download. That may be an option. And then listen, at the end of the day, if you're like, Adam, I don't want Advent. I don't need Advent. I want the way it's been. That's okay too. We're not trying to force feed this, but I think my job and our team's job is to provide resources for people like you. And to the extent that you find them useful, use them. And to the extent that you don't, then just let them pass you by. That's also okay. So, Advent is coming. And we invite your participation and won't think any less of you if you take a pass. Holler if I can be of any help. Thanks. See you Sunday.
If you'd like to learn more about Narrate Church, find us online at narratechurch.org.
You can also look us up on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for listening.